Hello, everyone. So today I'm going to talk to you guys about probably the worst thing, okay, or one of the worst things that happened in the United States, okay. And no, it's not going to be the American Civil War. And you might say, okay, what can be worse than that? I'm going to say that the worst thing that probably happened in the history of the United States is the passage of the 17th Amendment, okay, which made the election of senators a direct vote, okay. Now, a lot of people are going to be like, how could that possibly be a bad thing, okay? Isn't that more democracy, all right? The people electing senators. I mean, how can it be on at the same level as the Civil War? Okay, so the thing to understand is, like, when they were drafting the Constitution, the thing that they were concerned about, right, was tyranny, right? But it wasn't just a tyranny of by the government of the people. One of the big tyrannies or potential tyrannies that they were concerned with was the tyranny of factions, right? Of different political groups fighting each other, because the founding fathers had studied history. They had studied prior republics, and factions or political divides is one of the things that had torn up republics in the past. Okay, so they wanted to put a mechanism in the Constitution, not just to protect against tyrants, but also to protect against political factions. Okay, so everybody's aware of, let's say, the three separate branches of government, right? You got executive, legislative, judicial, and basically you got three branches of government. So there's supposed to be some type of a balance, okay? But in order to maintain that balance, the three of them were set up to be elected or appointed differently. Okay, they didn't want a direct vote for all of them by the people, because they recognized that people, people can become mini tyrants. Okay, so they wanted the people to have some power. So for them, they created the House. Okay, which was a chamber of the Congress. So that was meant to be by direct vote at the local level. The senators were supposed to be elected by the state legislatures, right? That's how the original Constitution was set up. And then the president, that was supposed to be elected by the states. And they kind of left it up to the states to figure out how they were going to do that. And over time, the states basically decided that they were going to pass that on to the people, right? So within the state, within most of all of our states at this point, it's a direct vote, but it doesn't need to be that, okay? And the states can pass a law to take that back, so that the electoral votes of the states can be appointed by some other means, right? Including flipping a coin. Okay, so the states can take that back, but with the election of senators, they actually passed an amendment. Okay, and amendments are very difficult to pass. They actually passed an amendment in 1913. Right, lots of bad things happened between 1900 and 1940. Okay, lots of bad things. We got income tax amendment. We got Federal Reserve Act. We got the NFA. So lots of really bad things happened. Okay, so the worst of them was the 17th Amendment, where now the senators are being elected directly by the people. And what that did is it took away a safeguard that was put in place to prevent political factionism, right? The situation that we have right now, where you have Democrats and Republicans almost ready to kill each other, and I don't mean at the high up political level, because at that level, at the level of the actual politicians, all they're really interested in is keeping their position, right? For them, it's a job. But the people that elect them, they're willing to manipulate them in any way that they can to get those votes. Okay, So they're going to promise them anything and everything, and blame the opposite party for their woes. Okay, so that's the situation that we have now, and because it at the moment, right? Essentially, we have a direct vote of the House, a direct vote of the Senate, a direct vote of the executive branch. You know, it's basically taking away one of those safeguards that was put in place against factions, and I think that this ultimately is or can be one of those things that actually drives this country to a civil war, which is something that the founding fathers were very much aware of. And if you look at the Federalist Papers, by design, the Constitution was meant to safeguard against that. Okay, because that's a major threat that they were worried about, and it was completely undone by the 17th Amendment. Okay, because what happens now is like prior to the passage of the 17th Amendment, okay, there was and also prior to like the vote for the president basically being a popular vote within the state, people didn't feel like they had that much of a say in government. Okay, so they were less politically motivated. Okay, and what it also did is it gave the states more power. So the states were kind of busy competing with each other and competing against the federal government for more power. Okay, because the senators were basically loyal to their states. Okay, that's really important. That's a very important component to this. Okay, the senators were elected by the state legislators, right, and they were loyal to their states, right. So once they made it a direct vote, right, for senators, that component was completely taken away. So there's nobody there right now fighting for state sovereignty, okay, because the senators really don't have an interest in this. Okay, so right now it's like there's just two sides, right? You just got like Democrats and Republicans, and that's it, right? Don't talk about independent parties because they really don't mean anything. Okay, it's just Democrats and Republicans, and by now everybody has sort of realized that the only way for their vote to really mean anything is they got to kind of pick one side. Okay, and that's what's happened. So you've got these two political sides that are, and there's really no third side of this, right? It's just two sides fighting each other. Whereas before the 17th Amendment, it wasn't just the political parties; it was also the states, which was a kind of like a political class in and of themselves. Okay, and you had states kind of fighting more against other states, and states fighting against the federal government. And that all went away after the passage of the 17th Amendment. Okay, so just something for you guys to consider. Okay, and yeah, I do believe that eventually, I don't know, like it might be 10 years from now, it might be next week, it might be 50 years from now, 100 years from now, I don't know, but if sooner or later, okay, if things keep going the way that they're going, there will be a civil war, and it's not going to be anything like the last Civil War. Okay, just like the last Civil War, right? The Civil War of 1860 was not anything like the prior Civil War, which was the American Revolution, right? Because the American Revolution was in fact a civil war, right? Because the colonists were basically subjects of the British Empire. Okay, so they fought against their own government to separate away. So that was a civil war. Okay, and within that, like a lot of times people think that, hey, all the colonists got together and all agreed that they wanted independence from the British Empire. It was more like 30% wanted independence, 30% were loyal to the British government, and like 40% in the middle didn't care either way. Okay, which is kind of like where we are right now. Okay, so that was a civil war, and that was nothing like the Civil War of 1860, right? Because there you had a very clear division between some states versus some other states. And that was almost like two separate countries fighting each other. Okay, so there was a very clear division there, and what I think happened is because there was such a clear division, and then one side clearly beat the other side. Uh, After the Civil War of 1860, it was sort of easy to mend the country back together, because the rip was like straight down the middle, sort of, okay, and you had a very clear victor, a very clear loser. So that's why I think that in terms of civil wars, that came back together really well. Okay. Now, if you look at other civil wars around the world, civil wars are usually extremely brutal. Okay. The reason is because each side, right? Each side doesn't see the other side as some external threat or external invader. Each side sees the other side as a traitor. Okay, and it's unlike like a normal war where two sides fight. At the end of the war, like basically the prisoners of war are released. Okay, in what I consider a real civil war, which is like the fighting is mixed within the nation, right? In that type of a civil war, each side kind of sees the other one as a traitor, and they both feel that the people from the other side need to die. Okay, and then you get usually with civil wars, they're very brutal. You get into situations of very typical of attacking people's homes, killing their family members, killing their kids. That's what a real civil war is. Okay, if you look at other civil wars around the world, real civil wars, that's what they usually tend to be, right? They it's not like so clear cut like our Civil War of 1860. It's really factional, where you've got like two groups that are kind of mixed within the country. You don't know where the lines are, and they're just like they're trying to kill each other, like kind of like on an individual basis. Okay. So yeah, that's kind of where I think we're heading. That's how I see things set up. Okay, I think like in the instance of of the way things are going, it might kind of turn out where the dividing line is rural areas versus urban areas. That might be a dividing line. Maybe not. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, passage of the 17th Amendment, making the election of senators a direct vote, countered, one of the protections that was put into the Constitution to prevent factionalism. Okay. So anyway, drop some comments. Let me know what you guys think. I'll talk to you all soon.